was 12, my mom had just started trusting me enough to stay home alone. We lived in a small, quiet town where nothing bad ever seemed to happen. Calm streets, big yards, friendly neighbors, and a little village with shops and restaurants. It always felt safe, the kind of place where you didn't need to glance over your shoulder walking at night. That's probably why my parents didn't think twice about leaving me home alone on weekends. My older sister was away, my grandparents weren't around, so it was just me in the house that night. Honestly, I was excited. At 12 years old, having a whole place to myself felt like freedom. Pizza money on the counter, video games lined up, and no one to tell me when to go to bed. Back then, I was obsessed with James Bond games, especially Nightfire on my PS2. After beating it for the third time that weekend, I put the controller down and decided it was finally time to order the pizza. There used to be a little pizza place near our house called Gianni's. It closed years ago, but back then it was our favorite. That night, I ordered a regular pie. At 12 years old, I could easily eat 3 slices, and my mom always told me to wrap the rest in foil for the fridge. While waiting, I swapped out discs on my PS2, losing myself in another game. When the doorbell finally rang, I grabbed the 20 my parents left and rushed downstairs. Mom told me to tip $4, which was fine, since the place was only a few blocks away. I opened the door and saw the delivery guy, maybe mid-30s, long, scruffy beard, glasses, and a black trucker hat. He looked tired, a little rough. I handed him the 20, asked for change, and as he gave me the box, his eyes slid past me into the house. Then he asked, "You alone here?" My heart skipped. It was a strange, unsettling question, and I remembered every warning my parents gave me about strangers. I quickly said, "My parents are on their way home." Looking back, it wasn't the best answer, but with no cars in the driveway and only a kid at the door, it was obvious why he asked. He gave me my change, but the way he stared made me slam the door fast. I ate 3 slices in the kitchen, wrapped the rest, and tried to calm down, but that question stuck with me. The way he looked past me into the empty house left me with a chill I couldn't shake. I went back upstairs and started playing another James Bond game, Agent Under Fire. It wasn't my favorite, but it passed the time. Hours slipped by until around 11 p.m. when the doorbell suddenly rang. My first thought was that my parents had come home early. I rushed down the stairs and called out, "Mom? Dad?" But instead of their voices, a low, unfamiliar voice answered, "Hey, I need help." My stomach dropped. The man said he needed to use a phone. I froze by the door, trying to decide if I should even look through the window. Something deep inside me screamed not to. With shaky hands, I asked, "Who is this?" But he only repeated, more forcefully this time, that he needed to use a phone. Every instinct told me it was wrong. I turned and began climbing the stairs, determined to ignore him, when a loud bang rattled the front door. The man's voice followed, desperate and sharp. "Wait, please, I need help." That's when it hit me. He could see me. Through the glass panel at the top of the door, he was watching me climb the stairs. I turned back, and though the porch light was off, I could make out the dark silhouette of his head pressed close to the glass. I couldn't see his eyes, but I felt them locked on me. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst as I bolted upstairs to my parents' room. The only phone in the house was there. I grabbed it and called my mom's cell. She picked up, sounding tired and maybe a little tipsy, and I stammered into the receiver that there was a man at our door, asking to come in. The second I told my mom a man was at the door, her tone changed completely. Whatever calm she had was gone. Her voice turned sharp and urgent. She asked if I had spoken to him, if he knew I was home, and I admitted yes. My chest sank as I remembered the pizza guy earlier asking if I was alone. My mom grew more concerned and told me to lock myself in her room and not move. Right then, the doorbell rang again, twice in a row, echoing through the house. Panic shot through me as I whispered that he wouldn't leave. She kept me on the line while my dad called the police from his phone. I could hear them leaving the restaurant to get a better signal. Meanwhile, the house felt too quiet, every creak magnified. The summer air drifted through the open windows, and that's when I heard it, the faint squeak of the side gate. It wasn't slammed or rushed, but slow, careful, like someone was sneaking into the backyard. My throat tightened as I whispered what I'd heard, eyes frozen on the dark yard through her window. My mom kept repeating, "Stay quiet, stay hidden, don't move." My hands shook as I clutched the phone and whispered, "What if he tries the den window?" She hushed me again, voice low but urgent, telling me to stay silent and wait for the police. She kept whispering updates into the phone, telling me the police were on their way, reminding me over and over not to make a sound. For a second, I started to think maybe things would be okay. Then, I froze. Clear as day, I heard footsteps creaking across the floor downstairs. Someone was inside the house. My blood ran cold. I whispered it to my mom and immediately heard her panic, yelling to the cops on the other line, "He's inside, hurry!" She told me to crawl under the bed and stay there no matter what. For 12-year-old me, that moment felt unreal, like something out of a nightmare. The only thing between me and whoever was out there was a thin wooden door with a cheap little lock. I held the phone against my ear, heart hammering, listening as the intruder moved through the house. Then came the slow, heavy steps on the stairs. Each creak felt like it was crushing my chest. The stairs led first to my room and my sister's, so the sound stopped for a while. I could imagine him searching, maybe opening drawers, looking around. My mom whispered that the police were close, but to keep hidden until they broke in.
Then the steps came back, louder this time, heading straight down the hall toward my parents' room. I clenched my jaw, trying not to cry, as the doorknob jiggled. He twisted it again and again, as if sheer force could open it. Then came a soft knock, 3 slow taps, but no voice, no words. That silence was worse than if he had spoken. Finally, after one more rattle at the knob, the footsteps faded back down the hallway, down the stairs, until the sound melted into the quiet of the house. My entire body shook, tears welling, but I didn't dare make a sound. I didn't even whisper to my mom, too afraid he'd hear. Then she said, voice trembling but steady, "The police are here. Stay put. Don't move until they're inside."
I thought I'd hear the door smashed open, but instead the silence broke with heavy boots pounding up the stairs and a man calling my name, saying he was with the police. My mom whispered it was okay to answer, so with shaking hands, I unlocked the door. 2 officers stood right in front of me, while 2 more searched the downstairs. They told me they hadn't needed to force their way in because the back door was standing wide open. Worse, the sliding glass window had been pushed all the way back, the clear point of entry. My chest tightened as I realized I hadn't imagined any of it. Someone had truly been inside with me. The officers sat me down and asked me to go over everything, step by step, from the knock at the door to the footsteps upstairs. My parents were still on the phone, listening in. When I mentioned the pizza guy asking if I was alone, I could hear my mom's voice break on the other line. By the time my parents made it back, only 2 officers remained to finish the report, but they promised to investigate. The next evening, my parents drove me to Gianni's, the pizzeria where I'd ordered from. They wanted me to point out the delivery man if I saw him. He wasn't there, so my parents asked the manager, who matched my description. He said it sounded like a guy named Phil, out on a delivery at that moment. When my parents explained everything, the manager quickly brushed it off, insisting it couldn't be Phil and asking us to leave. My parents were furious. They caused a scene, stormed out, and swore never to give them business again. We sat waiting in the car for nearly an hour, hoping to see Phil return, but he never did. My parents believe the manager tipped him off, warning him not to come back. Eventually, they even spoke with lawyers, but without hard evidence, no one would take the case. The thought that someone might have targeted me and simply slipped away still makes my skin crawl to this day. We never stepped foot in that pizzeria again, and for a long time, my parents wouldn't even think about leaving me home alone after that night. The whole experience left a mark on me, and to this day, I can't shake the feeling that it really was the pizza guy, or someone connected to him. Because honestly, who else could have known a 12-year-old was sitting home alone that night? When I was a teenager, my parents packed up our life in California and moved us to North Idaho, way out in the backcountry. They had just retired and built what they thought was their dream home. 2 stories, a private gym, a bar, even a full movie theater in the basement. It was the kind of house people fantasize about, huge and tucked away in the woods. No neighbors in sight, just endless forests stretching into the mountains and national parkland. Remote, quiet, perfect. Or at least, it looked that way. At the time, I had a girlfriend from high school, and one night when my parents went downtown for a date, I invited her over. We thought we had the whole place to ourselves. I cracked open a beer, feeling grown up even though I wasn't, and we settled into the dark movie room downstairs to watch Gladiator. It should have been an amazing night, but instead, it turned into one of the scariest nights of my life. At first, the night felt normal, but about halfway through the movie, close to midnight, this sudden wave of panic hit me. My chest tightened, my body screaming at me to run, even though nothing was happening. I kept glancing at the big, uncovered windows behind us that looked straight out into the endless woods. It was pitch black out there, but I couldn't shake the sense that something was staring back. I didn't want to scare my girlfriend, so I tried to brush it off. We laughed, messed around a little, and finished the movie, but the dread never left me. After I walked her out and watched her car disappear down the driveway, the house fell completely silent. That's when I realized I'd left half the basement lights on. Annoyed, I went back down, flipping them off one by one until I reached the movie room. And then I froze. Across the room, through the huge glass window, stood a man. His hair was wild, his clothes filthy, and his face, God, that face. He was grinning ear to ear, eyes stretched wide, unblinking, like pure madness. In his hand was a knife, and with slow, deliberate rhythm, he tapped the blade against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. For a moment I thought I was losing my mind, that maybe the movie had messed with my head. But the sound of metal on glass was real, and those eyes locked on mine were too real to deny. I backed away slowly, trying not to breathe too loud, and moved into the bar room to shut off the rest of the lights. That's when my blood froze. Through the sliding glass door, I saw him again. He had calmly walked from the window to the door, never breaking that awful grin, his wide eyes locked on me. Now we were barely a foot apart, nothing but a thin sheet of glass between us. He didn't lunge or even jiggle or handle. He just stood there, still as stone, staring into me like he wanted me to break first. I turned and walked upstairs without a word, and at that exact moment, my parents came through the front door. I blurted out, "I think I need a psych ward or something. I swear there was a guy outside with a knife watching me." My mom's face drained of all color. My dad didn't say a thing. He just went straight to the gun safe, grabbed his rifle, and stormed outside. My mom whispered, trembling, "There had been a few break-ins lately. A man wandering the woods, trying doors. What you described matches him exactly." The cops came but found nothing. No footprints, no broken locks. Just the woods, dark and endless, swallowing everything. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. Lying in bed that night, I froze when I heard a faint tapping beneath me. My room sat right above the movie room, and it sounded like metal gently tapping against glass. I told myself it was nothing, but it went on for hours. Night after night, the same sound returned. Sometimes it stopped. Sometimes I'd wake at 3 a.m. to hear it again, soft but steady. Once, I could have sworn I heard footsteps on the roof. I never saw anyone, but deep down I knew someone was out there, watching. When winter came, my parents had to leave town for a few days, though they were still uneasy after everything that happened. Before they left, they handed me a shotgun, just in case. Our big Rottweiler, the sweetest dog ever, was my only company, and he never made a sound unless there was truly something out there. That night, I heard slow, heavy crunching in the snow, footsteps circling the house. My dog's ears shut up, and then he growled, low and deep, before exploding into furious barking at the front door. My heart pounded as the barking shook the walls. Then came the knock, slow, hollow, deliberate, like someone daring me to answer. I didn't move. I kept every light off, the shotgun by my side, blinds drawn, dog at my feet, praying for morning to come. The next morning, my stomach dropped when I stepped outside. Fresh footprints circled the entire house, stopping at every single window, like someone had been watching me all night. I followed them into the woods, half a mile deep, until the tracks started zigzagging, looping back, like whoever it was knew I might be following. That's when I stopped cold. Something deep inside told me if I kept going, I wouldn't be coming back. That night, the tapping came back, louder than ever, and my blood ran cold. I knew it was him. Heart racing, I grabbed the shotgun and stepped onto the second-story deck, flipping on the fog lights that cut through the darkness. And there he was, the same filthy man, that twisted smile, those dead eyes locked on me, knife glinting in his hand like he was daring me to move. I shouted a warning, but he didn't even flinch, just grinned, unblinking. I fired into the air, and only then did he stagger back, still staring as he slowly retreated into the trees. I didn't hesitate. I tore downstairs, flung open the sliding door, and unleashed the dog. He exploded into the woods like a rocket, snarling and furious, the kind of rage I'd never seen from him. The collar stopped him short, but in my gut, I knew he'd chase that nightmare away. Because from that night on, the man never came back. That winter night still haunts me. The footprints circling every window, the slow knock, the dog's furious growls. It was all too real. Whoever that man was, he wanted in, and he wanted me. The police never found anything, and life eventually went back to normal. But I know what I heard, what I saw. Sometimes, when the snow falls just right, I swear I can still hear those heavy footsteps crunching outside, reminding me that some people don't just pass by your house, they watch. This happened in March of 2022, during spring break of my second year in college. 6 of us, me, Matt, Chris, Tyler, Jess, and Sarah, decided to rent a cabin deep in South Carolina for a few days. No classes, no phones, no stress. Just drinking too much, playing music too loud, and making the kind of dumb memories we laugh about later. At least that's what we thought. The cabin was huge for the price. 2 stories, a wraparound porch, right near a lake. It sounded perfect. The drive out there was long and unsettling. GPS cut out an hour before we arrived, and the road turned into nothing but dirt and gravel, surrounded by endless trees. When we finally pulled up, none of us said a word. It didn't look like the pictures. The shutters were falling off, the windows coated in dust, and there was this faint smell in the air, like rotting wood mixed with garbage. By 11, the air turned cold, so we all went inside. That's when I noticed just how dark the woods were. Not just regular night dark, this was a suffocating kind of black, where the porch lights barely reached a few feet, and the trees looked like they were closing in on the cabin. There was no sound at all, no bugs, no wind, nothing. Just heavy silence pressing down on everything. We eventually crashed around 2 a.m. My room was on the ground floor, small, with one window that looked straight out into the woods. At around 4:15, I woke up for no reason, wide awake, my heart already pounding like I knew something was wrong. Then I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was the heater, but it came again. Slow, steady, not metal, not mechanical. It sounded like fingers. I turned my head toward the window, and that's when I saw him. A man, pressed up against the glass, his face almost touching it. His skin was pale, his hair wild, and he wasn't wearing a shirt. He just stared in at me, mouth slightly open like he was breathing through it, eyes wide, unblinking. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, tapping. The sound got a little faster, like he was playing with me, teasing me. My whole body froze. I couldn't breathe. Finally, I whispered Matt's name. He was asleep on the couch right outside my room. Nothing. I said it again, louder, my voice shaking. He stirred awake, confused, and when he turned to look where I was pointing, his face went pale. Matt's face went pale the second he saw the man. He jumped up so fast he knocked over the coffee table, and just like that, the figure vanished. By the time Matt flipped on the porch light and ran outside, the man was gone. Everyone was awake now, the girls shaking. Tyler trying to laugh it off as some drunk local. Chris saying maybe a lost hunter. But I knew better. That man wasn't lost. He was watching. We shoved furniture against the doors and windows, taking turns staying awake, hearts pounding till morning. The next morning, we stepped outside and froze. Bare human footprints circled the entire cabin, stopping at every single window, even the tiny one above the shower. That was our warning to leave, but we didn't. Young, stubborn, and reckless, we stayed. Night 2 felt different. Same drinks, same music, same fire, but no one was relaxed. Eyes kept drifting to the woods. Jess stayed sober. Chris kept his knife close. By 3:30 a.m., we had locked every window, every door. Then Matt froze in the hallway, pointing toward the kitchen. I followed his gaze, and there was someone standing inside. It was the same man, only now he was inside and naked. His back was torn with deep, raw scratches, and he stood in front of the fridge, swaying like he didn't even know what it was. The sight made my stomach drop. None of us dared to speak. Matt slowly backed away, and we huddled together at the hallway entrance, clutching whatever we could use as weapons. I flicked on the light, heart pounding, and he was gone. The fridge door still hummed, the air felt wrong, and the back door hung wide open. Not broken, not forced, just open. We left about 20 minutes later without a word of argument. Nobody cared about clothes or gear. We grabbed wallets, phones, and keys, then sped down the dirt road until we finally got enough signal to call the sheriff. Meeting the deputy at a diner off the highway should have been reassuring, but it wasn't. He didn't look surprised, not even a little. He just asked if anyone was hurt, then casually said they'd had trouble with squatters in those woods before. We tried to explain. This wasn't random. This man watched us, returned twice, and somehow got inside without forcing a door. The deputy only nodded, almost like he already knew. And when we mentioned the cabin's owner, his face tightened like he recognized the name. Days later, the rental listing was gone, completely wiped like it never existed. No refund, no answers, just silence. But that face, the way he pressed against the glass, grinning at me like I was already his, I still see it sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night. It's burned into me like a shadow that never leaves. We don't really talk about that trip anymore. It's one of those memories everyone quietly agrees to bury. But deep down, I know it changed us. None of us have ever gone back to South Carolina since, and honestly, I don't think we ever will. Some places hold on to you in ways you can't explain, and sometimes it's safer to just never look back.